So we know Darkwing Duck. We know Chippendales Rescue Rangers. We certainly know DuckTales. But do you know the cartoon that started the entire Disney afternoon off? The Wuzzles? You don't know the Wuzzles? And you call yourself Disney fans? All right, hurry on back. We're going to have ourselves a little history chat on the Wuzzles. Can you believe I don't know who you are? I don't understand.
Just an 80s boy and a 90s teen, going on all things Disney, from mouse to parks and in between. Come share the magic with me. La 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 la. Live your life to a Disney tune. Come and share Jake's Disney Afternoon.
Hi, Disney Afternoon gang. My name is Jake. If you're returning here, thanks for coming back for another vid. And if you're new, I do all kinds of Disney content, including unboxings, pins, and today, a little bit of Disney history. So click the subscribe button below so you don't miss anything coming down the road. The 80s. Was there no greater time for toys and cartoons? The entire Saturday morning lineup was filled with Strawberry Shortcake, Rainbow Bright, He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and all of them had toy tie-ins. Disney wanted part of the action. It was September of 1984, and Michael Eisner was just the newly appointed CEO of the company, a company that probably needed a little bit of shaking up. After Walt's death, the company sort of floundered a little bit. Obviously, there were some great movies made at the time, but it was time for a little bit of a shakeup, and Michael Eisner was brought in to do just that. One of the things that Michael Eisner first did was to tap some creatives at the company to start a animation television department. He wanted a bit of that Saturday morning cartoon action. Great book, totally awesome. The Greatest Cartoons of the 80s is an excellent read on not just Disney cartoons, but all of the Saturday morning lineup that most of us grew up with. So let me just read a little bit just to kind of get our history motion on what the Wuzzles were, why they were important, and what happened to them. Meanwhile, Michael Eisner tapped the Walt Disney Music Division, headed by President Gary Crystal, for additional talent. He wanted to talk to the young innovators in the studio, recalls record producer Jim Magan. I'd done an album called Mickey Mouse Disco, a fantastic album, by the way, and it had sold something like 3 million copies. I'm assuming it was because the music company was hot at the time that Gary got invited to this meeting with Michael Eisner, Frank Wells, and writer and animator Tad Stones. Gary brought me along. We were in Eisner's living room on a Saturday morning. His schedule was so busy that this was the only time he could meet. Eisner's kids were there eating cereal and watching TV. Eisner was on the phone asking for the returns on the movie Country, which had just opened. He tells us he wants to create a TV animation department, and Wuzzles was already in development. The Wuzzles was a co-production with toy company Hasbro, which would produce a line of plush toys and other tie-in merchandise based on the hybrid characters. You know the premise of the Wuzzles? They were mutants, says Fred Wolf. Half bumblebee, half lion, half rabbit, half hippo, that sort of thing. Later at that meeting, Eisner would go on to pitch what would become the second idea for Disney's television, and that would be the Gummy Bears. Interestingly enough, the Gummy Bears and the Wuzzles premiered on Saturday morning, September 14th, 1985 at 8:30 in the morning on 2 different networks, pairing off head-to-head. And they did pretty well, but Wuzzles eventually stopped, as you know, and Gummy Bears went on for several more seasons. The Wuzzles are an important blip in the history of the Disney timeline because they were the first that kicked off what would become the Disney Afternoon. And if you know the name of this channel, you know that the Disney Afternoon was important to me. So going back to its history and back to its roots is incredibly important. So I have a huge collection of Wuzzles merchandise. I would venture to guess probably the largest collection out there of Wuzzles, over 2,500 items in my personal collection. So I thought I'd take an opportunity to share with you a little bit of the history, a little bit of the development, and some of the really cool pieces I have in my collection. And then maybe you'll have a newer appreciation and go check out the Wuzzles themselves. So let's start with the characters. So here is the first character. These are all in the original boxes from, she does not want to stay, from the 1984-85 release. This is Butterbear. So all the cartoon characters are two animals combined into one.
We're in the land of was, they're having twice the fun, 'cause every single thing is really two in one. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and when you add it up, you get a lot of that.
So she is part bear and part butterfly. You can see the wings on the back. Each of the plush came with a storybook that gave you a little bit of insight into the world, and then particularly into this character. So that is Butterbear. Then we move on. We've got, this is Elleru, still in his box. He is part kangaroo and part elephant. You can't see, you can see a little bit here on the side. He also has wings. All of them have wings, which is a debated point between some of the creators. I'll link a video up above of an interview I got to be a part of with the original creators of the Wuzzles, and they tell some really fascinating stories. So I'll link that up above, and I would highly recommend you check it out. But they do talk about why they had wings and what was the point behind it, and some of them disagreed with that. Again, he came with a storybook. Then we have Rhinoki. Rhinoki was the jokester of the group, part monkey, part rhinoceros. He told the worst possible punny kinds of jokes. There was Wuzzle, one of my favorites. I love Wuzzle. He is part moose and part seal, so you can see his tail back there, and then he's got the antlers up above. Again, he came with a storybook. He was sort of the fix-it character of the group. He had his own little fix-it shop. Some of the stories between the characters in the books and the characters in the show do not quite add up. There was a lot of very fast production on this. They started producing Wuzzles developing in the fall of '84, and they premiered a year later. And so the whole thing went very quickly. Then we've got Bumbleian. Bumbleian was the sporty kind of guy. He was one of the leaders, one of the more popular Wuzzles that people kind of recognize. He is part bee and part lion. And his book is Win One for Bumbleian, all about sort of a sports adventure. Show you quick the back of the box. There's the artwork that was featured on all of the packaging. And then finally we have Hoppopotamus. She is part bunny and part hippo. And this was she was voiced by the great Joanne Worley. And she was the actress, a little bit of the diva of the group. There was a lot of slightly unsettling fat jokes at her expense. But the thing I did like about her was no matter the insult, she still believed in herself and took herself really seriously. So this is Hoppopotamus. There was, in addition to the plush, which were kind of the main push at the time, there was licensing deals that were exploding everywhere. Probably unseen again, at least for a while. Most of the rest of the Disney Afternoon line, Tailspin, DuckTales, etc., did not have the toy tie-in that the Wuzzles had. So there were a series of, I guess, posable action figures, very much reminiscent of Care Bears. They made all 6 of these characters in that line. There was a series of backpacks that were produced. Take that, Loungefly. So here is Bumbleian. It's kind of a plush. You can see the straps on the back, and the top head opens up into the backpack. Really, really cute design. The other one that they made in that series was Elleru as a backpack. You can see the straps there on the back, and again, he opens up on the top. I think these are the only two that they made in that in the backpack series. You'll find as we go through that much of this was a couple of characters. It wasn't always every character that got the license. So some of the other things that I have in my collection, Applause was a big company making lots of figures and cards and picture frames for all kinds of properties. This is one of the catalogs, and so there's a whole series of like mirrors and banks that they made. Picture frames, I have all of these, most of them in their original packaging still. I'll do a little video tour soon and show you. Then they also made sort of stationary type items. You can see staple, notebooks, pens, and then pencil toppers, pencils themselves, little PVC figures were made. And then in addition to that, some of the artwork that I have that I'm really proud to have in my collection, these are from, these are original concept drawing designs from Bradley Time, who made watches. So here is the template for the Bumbleian watch. And then there's the black and white image with all the color swatches on them. I got these from a woman whose father was employed at Hasbro Bradley at the time, and these were in his personal collection. So here's the second one. This one has a little note here about repositioning one of the characters. So this was a little bit still in development. Again, the blank image with the color swatches below, and then they're both stamped with the property of Bradley Division on the back. So in addition to the 13 episodes that were created featuring the 6 characters plus Croc, the villain, and his gang, which I'll insert a few pictures here, there was an additional 6 characters created as plush, and only one of them actually ended up featured in the cartoon, Tycoon. I also have all of those plush animals too. I will insert a few pictures to show you. Then the Wuzzles died. Somewhere in 1986, they stopped making episodes. Gummy Bears went on. There was a lot of reasons why. One of the voice actors died. There was some conflict between the studios, and so if you watch the video with the interviews, you'll kind of get a little more insight as to nobody kind of has a real grasp on the exact story. But they didn't waste any time. They didn't waste any resources. The Wuzzles were heavily marketed overseas. They were very big in Canada, huge in Europe. In fact, in 1986, in the UK, they premiered with the re-release of Bambi in theaters as a short, the first episode short before the feature was premiered. So Bulls of a Feather is episode 1, and this is the program that came along with the ticket purchase for the premiere of Bambi in 1986. I have a couple of posters that go along with this, and it tells a little bit inside about the characters, about Bambi. There's a little bit more about the Wuzzles right there. And then in Germany, the Wuzzles premiered in theaters along with the re-release of Peter Pan. So this is the original German theatrical release poster for Peter Pan, but this was the insert featuring the Wuzzles specifically. Again, it was Bulls of a Feather that was shown as the short before the feature film. And then They were released on home video in several countries. They were never released on any kind of media in the United States. They did premiere, interestingly enough, in the early days of the Disney Channel. So after the show had closed, I imagine that they were looking for content to fill in the newly formed Disney Channel, and the Wuzzles were actually shown through the early 90s. And so a second generation kind of got to view them. But they were released on VHS. These are from Venezuela. So a series of VHS tapes with two episodes. No, this one has 3 episodes. Oh, they both have 3 episodes shown on them each. They were also released in Italy and Germany, I think, also. Who remembers the Panini sticker albums? Did you collect these? These were really popular here. And they released a Wuzzles one. This one is complete. Also has it's falling out, but it came with a poster of all of the characters, which I really love. Poster art. I really love that kind of marketing material. So I'm happy to have this. Who else collected these? Comment down below if you had a Panini sticker album. Remember, you had to go and buy the little packets, and you could send away for stickers or trade stickers because you didn't know. They were kind of like the mystery blind boxes of the 80s and the 90s. And then the other thing I have in my collection, I have so much more, and I'm going to do a quick little tour. There were record players, radios, Walkmans, books galore, storybooks, sticker books, coloring books. There were Christmas ornaments. There were all kinds of PVC figures. So I'm going to do a little tour. I've got some displays that I will walk you through, and I'll probably insert right here. Here are some plushes from other countries. So they have other names. And then Koalakeet, that came from Australia. A whole plethora of books, coloring books. And then these are some loose plush, some slippers there in the corner. Okay, so we've got some ornaments, and then in the back there, some more electronics. Coming down, some more plush in a box. These are the mini ones. Lots of PVC, pencil toppers. Some of the stuff I was showing you in the catalog is there. And then another row of books. Some artwork, and then a whole roll of electronics. About the thing that I have in my collection that I probably treasure the most is I have over 350 pieces of original animation artwork from the Wuzzles. And the Wuzzles were, Disney hired out a company in overseas in Asia to supervise the artwork and the animation process, which was something that many of the studios were doing. A lot of people at the Disney company sort of rejected the idea that the actual animation was being farmed out. So Disney had the designs, Disney supervised the storyboards and the stories themselves, and then the physical work was actually done by a company overseas. And so I have all kinds of artwork. You can see there's one behind me. That is the original cell and the original painted backdrop. Over here up top is, you can kind of see the sort of weird multicolors, was a test screenshot, so before production even happened. And then what I'll kind of show you briefly is I have an entire series of animation cells from the original pilot. So they tested a whole bunch of studios to see which studio they would go with. And I have got a hold of the original artwork from those pilots, which then slightly changed before they actually premiered the original episode. So these are from Bulls of a Feather. Each studio was going to do 2 minutes worth of animation, and then Disney would choose which studio they would pick. So there's an original cell of Bumbleion. As you can see here, I've got some storyboards. These are original storyboards mixed in. Here's some more. Here's another animation cell. and then another one without the backdrop. Here's a couple more featuring some of the other characters. So Rhinoki, let's see if we can get a good... Rhinoki went through a lot of character changes. That is not his final form. He would kind of have a little scallop, almost Mickey Mouse face when he was done. These are the bulls that attack them. Couple more I'll just show you. So here is the gang driving in the car. I've got an original. So there's sort of the storyboard that highlights a little bit of the final action. And there they are. Great colors, really great images. These have been well kept and well preserved. So here's a little fuller image. This is Wuzzle and Hippopotamus. Wuzzle would kind of go through a little bit of a change there before his final form. We've got Croc, which I don't have. There was no real merchandise made for Croc. Again, this is not quite the final version of Croc. He wouldn't have the crown in the end. And then here's a little bit closer up. I'll show you one more of the sort of part of the main cast. So this is just a small sampling. Like I said, I have over 350 pieces of artwork, some pencil drawings, a lot of sequence animation, a lot of hand-painted backdrops and backgrounds. If you are interested in that and you want to see more of the history, I do run an account called the Wuzzle over on Instagram, which I'll link down below, that I share just Wuzzles memorabilia and things from around the world and things that I have in my personal collection. Unfortunately, the episodes were never released on any kind of media here in the States. They are currently not on Disney Plus. I know there is a movement to hopefully maybe get those on there, but they are on YouTube, uploaded mostly from rips from the Disney Channel. So I would encourage you to check them out if you haven't seen them. It's a really charming show. But more importantly, it kicked off a really important era in Disney history that would lead to DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Goof Troop and Tailspin and the whole Disney afternoon. And of course, just a few years later in 1989 would be the renaissance of the Disney feature animation with The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. And so this was really kind of just that precursor to the era of Disney in the 90s that really kind of redefined what animation could be, both on the big screen and on the small screen. I hope you enjoyed that little glimpse into a history. I'd like to do more of these. I love the history of cartoons. I love Disney animation history. So I want to dive into some more of these. And I hope that you will consider subscribing down below for other future Disney content. And until then, see you around.
Hope to see you back real soon, sharing in Jake's Disney afternoon.